Good afternoon, everyone. Today, what we're covering is we're working with users again, kind of a review of organizational units, creating users. Then we'll be concentrating on additional new features like modifying users, modifying multiple users, using user templates, intruder detection. We'll be implementing, configuring, and testing intruder detection, working with organizational roles and groups. All kinds of fun and exciting user stuff. To start things off, I thought I had it powered on. And I'll power this on. Everybody sees my screen? Oh, you don't? Who am I showing to then? I thought I showed somebody. Sure, student 45, who's not responding? The one that's not here. That's the one that gets it. Okay, good. Sorry about that. You should have up or available to you the Novals class files. We'll be looking at the Gropa org chart today and actually implementing part of it. You don't have it again? Actually, this morning's class had the same problem on that computer. So, okay, I'll refresh it. It should pop up automatically. Either that or that computer's just not configured correctly. 33 is missing. Do you have a little owl in your lower right-hand corner? Does it hover over it? What channel are you on? That's where it should be. I think we had problems with that this morning too. If you don't mind glancing over at Ryan, otherwise your other option is to restart your computer. There's nothing I can do from my end. Okay. Your Gropa org chart should look something like this. If you have it, sort of put on another screen. This is where we need 3 screens, one for your notes, one for the Gropa org chart, one for your virtual machines, right? I could. Actually, I can't. I'm not hooked up to the projector. Yes. Okay. Moving along, we want to move along. What I'm going to do today, a little bit different than before, is I kind of would go through and have you follow along and do things right as I did them. I'm going to do shorter topics, sort of snippets of things, do it all through the entire thing, and then pause, and then let you do it and catch up and practice and, you know, sort of take notes or whatever you want to do it that way. That way we're not sort of interrupting all the time with, you know, all the little issues that we may have along the way. There will be shorter sections though, so you know it won't be that long between times to work on things. So just letting you know about that. Okay, I have my organization, sorry, I have my client up and my server should be up. And I want to connect to my server. I am going to be working with users, so I do want to have an organizational structure. I don't have Gropa on here already, so I'm going to be creating that very quickly, at least just a part of it. I'm logging into iManager. iManager is what we use for users, organizational units, and pretty much everything else we're doing today with templates and groups and organizational roles as well. I want to log in as LTC password. It's a little pokey to begin with. It comes up to default of the roles and tasks. You can do a lot of things underneath here. eDirectory, maintenance, and down users, and so on. I definitely like to use the View Objects icon. That way I can see the whole organizational structure here. And I do have Gropa on here already. I must not have gone back to a snapshot. Nope, I don't want to go there. Aha. Let's try that again. Took a snapshot, but I didn't revert to it. Okay, management services. I'm going to iManager, and I'm going to log in. It didn't like it when I switched the server in the background. Logging in LTC, LTC. And going up top to View Objects. When I click on View Objects, it lets me see my entire tree and my directory structure, my organizational structure, my E-directory structure. Take a look at my Gropa org chart. I don't have a Gropa organization on here. This is kind of review. You might have yours on yours. I don't, and I'm going to create that right now. I'm going to click on Benfield Tree, right at the root of the E-directory. I'm going to go to New and create an object. New Create Object, and I want to create an organization. I click OK, and the organization I want to create is Gropa. It's another Gropa organization. If I click on it, I can now create new organizational units inside of here, just like I did. PFL was my organization. Underneath PFL was AFC and NFC organizational units. I'm going to do the same thing underneath Gropa. Create new, create object, an organizational unit. I'm only going to do a couple examples here. I'm going to create HR for human resources, and I'm going to repeat the task. I'm going to choose IS. This is where I would create sales and accounting, operations, and executive as well, but just for these examples, I'm going to create those two organizational units. Go ahead and do that right now. Okay, let's take a look at creating some users then. Just as a quick review, I'm going to go under IS. I'll grab my org chart up here on my other screen. If I click on IS, I then go under New, create a user for IS. And this is the stuff we did last week. So I'm going to create Samantha. B is the username. Her first name is Samantha, and her last name is Benfield. Her password is LTC, 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 LTC. I want to include the simple password. And then I scroll on down and go to the Create Home directory. For the Create Home directory, when I click that, it adds Samantha B to the path. All I have to do is find the volume I want to put that on. I use the object selector next to volume. I want to find my home volume. I want to arrow up the context and arrow up, all until I can find my Benfield organization. The Benfield organization is the one that I created when I installed the server. That's where it is by default. So I go underneath there and I choose home. So I want to use the up and down arrows while I'm going up and down the organizational units. When I find the object that I want, I click on it. So click on home. And it's going to add home. If I want to add titles, I certainly could. I'm not going to right now. We'll work with that a little bit later on. And then I click OK. I can repeat the task because I have two more people in that directory, in that organizational unit. One is Lauren B. Lauren Benfield. Password is LTC, LTC. Retype the password of LTC, LTC. Set the simple password and point to the home volume. You have two buttons or two icons on the right-hand side of most of these fields. The first one is the object selector. That's where we typically go and navigate up and down, up and down. The second icon is the object history. It's kind of like recent documents that you have for Notepad or for Word or whatever it's going to be. If you click on the object history, you're going to see a couple objects. And one of them is that volume that I just pointed to. So instead of navigating up and down the organizational structure looking for it, especially if you're entering information over and over, remember that that second link is available to you, that you can choose the home volume right from there. We're not going to enter any other additional information right now. I'm just going to click OK, and then repeat the task one more time. And this is for Brandon. Yes. Set the simple password, create the home directory, and then home, and click OK. So I just created there are 3 users under IS. Go ahead and create the 3 people under human resources as well now, just the manual way that we just did right now. So the next thing we're going to talk about then is modifying users. And again, this is a review kind of things we did last week a little bit. If I want to take a look at Emma B's account settings, I could click on Emma B. And what I recommend you do is maximize this screen, because we have a lot of menus up here, and you can see you have to scroll up and down and back and forth. It's probably best just to maximize that screen so you can see all the menus up on top. Some of this information you could have entered during the creation, such as title, location, department, telephone number, and so on. Let's say for department, if I wanted to add the department information for Emma, I can't type it right in here. I have to click on the plus sign. I click on the plus sign, and then I enter human resources. If I wanted to add some more information, I could add a second line on here. Maybe also call it HR. But that's 2 different items. It's on a drop-down list. So human resources and HR both on there. You can't show them both at the same time. You just have to arrow down to see what the options are. If you want to edit one of these things, you hit the pencil on the right-hand side. So instead of HR, I do H period, R period. And that edits that item. The other option is I really don't like this at all. I can delete it, and that's the minus. So plus to add an item to a field list, the pencil to edit it, and then a minus to take it away. This is some basic information. More importantly, the things that we end up modifying and changing are the user restrictions. So when we create the user, it comes up with all the default restrictions, which are pretty minimal. This says allow the user change the password, that's about it. Often we'll have all of these things checked, and putting meaningful information in, like 180 days, minimum password length of 5, and grace log is 6 is pretty good defaults there. If I want login restrictions, which is typically not added unless the person has a temporary account, that they're going to, a temporary worker for a certain long length of time, but we usually don't disable the accounts as soon as we create them. Time restrictions, I can put something in here just to show that I'm putting it on there, clicking apply. Address restrictions is where we could say you can only log in from a specific IP address, and that's about it. Intruder lockout we'll get into later on today about showing how to clear intruder detection. But I can go, again, if I wanted to modify a user, changing its password restrictions, login restrictions, time restrictions, and those kinds of things, this is how I would do it. Or under general, changing any of this information, title, department, telephone number, and so on. An important field, though we don't manipulate it or do much with it, is the environment field. It points to your home directory. So this is a variable, and so making sure this is pointing to the right location is important. So the environment home directory. Another thing that I can do is manipulate multiple people at the same time. So if I want to choose everybody in human resources, such as right now, if I had 20 people, 50 people, whatever, I could check the checkbox up on top, and it'll select all the users. It's not going to select itself. This is actually the current level. It just kind of figures out that you don't want that. I can deselect it again by clicking the checkbox up on top. If I want to just affect a couple people, I just choose the people that I want to affect. When I do that, I now can go up to Edit, and these are the things that I can change that apply to all those users. As you notice, I don't have nearly the number of tabs or configuration things, but there's several items that I can change. Say that I do realize that, I didn't put human resources down for the department when I created these people. Let me go and do that right now. What I could do then is using this field over here where it says department, click plus, and type in human resources, or type in HR. I'll type in HR. Now, it's still not going to do anything. So even if I typed OK right now, I'm going to maximize this so I can see all the buttons at the bottom. It's just going to ignore that information. I do have three other options. One is to replace, add, or remove that information. So what I can do is, if there's existing information in there, I'm just going to replace it with HR. Or I can add it to the list. So if somebody had something selected or entered in there, I'll just be adding it to there. I'll just be doing adding for right now. And I click OK. And it says it just updated 3 of 3. So I'm going to close that. Take a look back. I'll uncheck all these people. Go back under Alexis. And now that I see I have HR under there. I obviously had Emma before, and now Emma has human resources and HR under there. So that just added that information to her list of options. But it added HR to everybody else. So you go back and realize, oh, I really don't want to use the abbreviations. I really do want to type it out. I select all my people. I go to Edit. And now I can edit this field. Human resources. And I'm going to say I'm going to replace the value in those people's fields. Maybe under telephone numbers, I could add something. 1-800, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to replace that information as well. Get a new phone number. I click OK. It updates those 3 people. I take a look at Anthony. Now the department information and the telephone number has been updated on here. You're not limited to such benign things such as this. You can change other things as well. So if I select all the people and I go to edit them, I can do other restrictions as well, such as allowing people to change their password or forcing it to do different things. Just giving another example of time restrictions. I only set time restrictions on the one person. I'm going to change this just to show how this works. But again, don't forget the little drop down the right-hand side. People make these changes and then not apply them to anything. So I want to replace everybody's existing time restrictions. And again, I have bad screen resolution on here. That's why I don't get to see my whole screen. And then I click OK, and it updates all those people. To see that's the case, I can go back and look at Anthony now. And I can go to Restrictions, Time Restrictions. You can see that's been updated for all those people. So there's a lot of things that you can apply to a lot of people. So all of a sudden you realize, boy, I want different time restrictions, I want different password changes or whatever. You can manipulate that with several people at the same time. Go ahead and make some of those changes. Change time restrictions for the Information Systems Department. Add department information and phone numbers for all the people in all the departments. Just to go ahead and see how to modify that and change that. Okay, the next thing we want to cover then is moving people. There are times when people move between departments. Let's say that Anthony's working in human resources, loves human resources, but kind of started working with computers, thought it was pretty cool, went to school for IT and decided to get transferred to the IT department. So we are going to move Anthony. To move Anthony, we're going to click on the checkbox next to Anthony. And when we do that, we can go to the Actions tab then, because Actions only work on the objects that we've selected. So I go to Actions, and I choose Move the Object, or Move User. It's really the same thing. I'm going to say Move the Object. Where do I want to move the object to? And that brings us to our little object selector. I want to move Anthony under the Gropa organization into the Information Systems Organizational Unit. So again, navigate with the arrows up and down. When you find the object that you want to select, click right on it. So I'm going to click right on IS. So you see that anthonyb.hr.gropa, which is the full name of that user, is being moved to is.gropa. That's a container. I click OK, and now he's gone. I click under IS, and I can see that Anthony is now under IS. Yes? You can also move multiple objects. Say that once Anthony joins the IS team, everybody else in the IS department decides to join HR. Says, I want to get out of IS and go to HR. So Brandon, Lauren, and Samantha decide to go to HR. So you can move multiple objects at the same time. You can go to Actions, and then move the object. This is a much shorter list, and again, user or object. The user is an object, so it doesn't make any difference. Move the user. Where do you want to move them to? I want to move them to HR. So I click on HR, and then I click OK. And it just moved the 3 people. So Anthony's alone in IS. I go to HR, and I have all these people in our HR then. This is one reason that I strongly encourage people having a separate home directory, like a special volume or even a directory structure or whatever, that's common for all the users in the organization. By me moving departments, for these people between departments, their home directory doesn't move. Brandon's home directory is still, in fact, we'll go to it. Let's go to Remote Manager. I like working with that a little bit better. I work with the file system. I go to Home, and Brandon's home directory is still here. I don't care what department he works for, whether he's in maintenance or operations or sales or accounting. This is Brandon's home folder, never to be relocated. So it's very, very convenient for those purposes. So go ahead and move some people around and move a single person, move multiple people, however you want to do. So far, we've been able to modify the user settings. We've been able to move people. Now we want to rename them. Renaming is actually a little bit more complicated, not because the renaming the object is hard, but everything else that is associated with it as well. There's actually several steps that you have to do if you are going to rename somebody. Say that we have Anthony here. I moved Anthony back to IS, by the way. I have Anthony sitting here, and he wants to be renamed to Tony B instead of Anthony B. The renaming of the object is actually pretty easy. So I click on the checkbox next to Anthony, and I go to Actions, and I rename the object or rename the user, and they're exactly the same field or the same window that pops up. So I'm going to rename the user, and it just asks you what you want to rename it to. Tony B. And this is their username that you're changing, by the way. So instead of Anthony B logging in as Anthony B now, they will type in Tony B. And that's how they'll log in. The password stays the same. The restrictions stay the same. All of their security settings and file system rights that they'll have access to in the next couple of weeks will mean the exact same thing. The only difference right now is that they're logging in as a different username. This is all you really, really have to do. Except if we want to keep things consistent, if I look at Tony B and I go under Environment, I still have a home directory of Anthony B. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. That's completely legitimate. In fact, the home directory could be, you know, Sparrow, Alphabet. It could be anything that you want it to be. It has nothing to do, there's no magic connection between a username and a home folder. It's just convenient to have them called the same, so you can manage them very easily. So we really should, if you want to keep the consistency, rename that home folder. Well, okay, so that's the second step. So the first step is to rename the user account itself by clicking on here and going to rename. The second step is to rename the folder. And again, just preferring Remote Manager for this. I click back to Remote Manager. I go to my home volume under volumes, and I find the Anthony B directory, and I go to rename it. I go to rename it by clicking on the little info button on the left-hand side of Anthony B, and way down the bottom, it gives me the option to rename the directory. And instead of Anthony B, I want to change that to Tony B. And then once I type that in, I click on Rename Directory. And now it's Tony B. So I rename the user, I rename the user's home directory. Now I have to go back under the user's account and point it to that new directory. By the way, none of their file system rights have changed. Tony still has access to this. Just this reference to it needs to be updated. So I go back under Tony B again. I go under Environment, and this is where it needs to be changed. Something short and simple that way, you could easily just type in Tony in there, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to do it that way, though. I'm going to use the selector, the object selector, because it's whenever you have the choice of selecting something off a list, you're much, much better off, even if it's something very simple, because you type something wrong, have a space, have a dot, have a dash, whatever, it's going to be messed up. So I click on the browser. I need to find that directory. Well, that's back up underneath my Benfield organization, and it's going to be on my home volume, but I can't click on home because that's not the directory I want to point to. I want to go in the home volume, and there's actually two links to get to home. And then I choose the new directory that I just created or renamed to Tony B. When I do that, it fills this all in, makes sure I don't have any typos or mistakes, and so it does point to that directory then. And I click OK. So if I click underneath, another thing you may want to do is, in fact, their full name where it does say first name. I can edit this as well. This would not be critical either. But now everything, oh, I should edit this field. All the references to Tony. And these are pretty minor. The bigger things that you want to watch out for is, in fact, the username, the home directory, and then the path to the home directory. So go ahead and rename somebody, rename their username, rename their home directory, and then point to their new folder using that variable. If you need to make any modifications to the names under the properties page, go ahead and do that as well. Just go through that process again of just renaming somebody. We're going to change Emma B to Emily B. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to the user. I'm going to rename the user to Emily B. So the next step I would do then is go to my home directory, home volume. I can go to Manage Server Volumes, Home, and here's Emma. And I will rename the Emma B folder to Emily B. So I'm renaming the directory. So I renamed the two. Now I just want to point the one back to the other, go back to iManager, go back to Emily, and then change the environment to the new location. I use the object selector to point the path. I go up, I come down under home, down under home again, and I choose Emily B. If, by the way, if you have a long list here, like you've created all the users so far, like some of you have, they won't all show on the screen. You'll have to click the next or previous on the bottom. I'm choosing Emily B right now. and then I can click OK. And then finally, the last step, I guess the fourth step, would be any other references to Emma to Emily should be changed. And this is where I'd be using the pencil or the edit selector. Change this to Emily, and for the full name also for Emily. And click OK. So again, just those 4 steps for renaming a user. It's not really difficult. There's just lots to do that. So kind of be careful with that. That is something that you'll be tested on, so definitely take notes of how to make sure that you do it thoroughly. Okay, the last thing that I want to show you before your break is, in fact, deleting users. Now let's say that Tony leaves the company. What should I probably do? Should disable the account. It's kind of a trick question, sorry. I don't want to delete them quite yet. I want to disable them. A couple ways of doing this, just to show you. I like using the menus. I always click on the user, and then using the restrictions tab up on top, and then login restrictions. Account disabled. If as soon as I apply that, Anthony's or Tony's account is disabled, so he can't log in anymore. If he was logged in, he'd get logged out. So if he did leave, even if somebody has the password, they can't get access to that account. After sitting there for a while, you know, he's definitely not coming back. Everything's cleared. We got all of his stuff transferred to other people in different departments. So we're truly done with the account, and we're sure that we're good. We can delete the account. To delete the account, we click on the little checkbox next to Tony, and we hit delete. Quite simple. And delete user and delete object are identical. And deleting the user, yes, I do. And now Tony is gone. And again, remember, there's no undo or undelete. No salvage, not for users. Yes, there's other ways of doing that as well. If we're disabling, like Emily, I could check box her here, and I could go to actions and then disable the account as well. The reason I don't do this is because it just gives you enable or disable. You really don't see what the current state is. I don't know. I like menus. The other way that you could do that as well is when you log into iManage, the default is this roles and tasks. You can go under, let's see, so users. I can disable and enable accounts just under users. I think under help desk I have some options as well. No, it's just lockouts. Never mind. Forget that. But under users, I can disable and enable accounts as well. So there's lots of different ways. Finding one way to do that is very beneficial. I certainly like the idea of just using the menus, going to Garopa, going to wherever I want to work on, clicking on the user. It's a few more clicks, but I can see exactly what's going on there. Now, the home directory is completely unrelated to the user. I mean, we link them together and we say that's your home directory, but when I delete the account, it doesn't delete the home directory. That is a second step that you have to do separately. So I deleted Tony. I go back underneath my home volume, and I still see a Tony directory here. So when you delete people, if you ever get to that point where you truly have to delete somebody, make sure that you go in, click on the info icon next to Tony. Way down the bottom, it says delete the directory and its contents. Make sure you do that. Are you sure? Yes, I am. And now you deleted that. You can delete multiple people at the same time. Say that I want to go underneath Garopa HR, and we're going to get rid of everybody. We're going to fire HR. So we choose all those people, Alexis, Brandon, Lauren, and Samantha, and we delete them all. So they're all gone. Again, you do need to go back to the remote. You have to go back to the home volume and then choose these individual people. You can select multiple objects, unfortunately, so I have to go to Alexis, delete, yes, Brandon, delete, yes. Oh, I forgot who I deleted. That's okay. We're going to delete them all anyway. Delete, delete, and delete. So we deleted everybody's home directory, and now I want to delete my last remaining person, which is Emily. So now in our Garopa, I should have an HR container and an IS container with nobody left. We're going to go over templates next. When we created users before, we were created them manually. We go into the organizational unit, and we created a new user. After we did that, we filled this information in, said OK, then came back into that user and did like the user restrictions, login restrictions, time restrictions, and all that kind of stuff. And every time we create a user, we have to like look for the home directory and work with all that. We can use templates to fill in a lot of that information for us. In fact, it's even better than doing it manually because by default, the rights they give for your home directory are actually too many rights than they really should be getting. And when we use templates, we get to define that much more closely and much more carefully. I'll show you how to do that. We're going to do that by creating a template. We're in the IS container right now. I'm going to create a new object, so create object. Scrolling down to the bottom, I have template. And I'm going to call it T_IS. By the way, T_ is just a traditional way of doing this. You can call it anything you want. You can call it a user template. You can call it a template for IS users, as whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call mine T_IS. I see it's for the IS container, and I know it's a template. And then I click OK. After I click OK, I can click OK again, and then click on the object to modify it, or you can click on Modify right from here. So I'm going to click on Modify right from here, and it looks very, very similar to the user accounts, and that's kind of the idea, is that whatever you enter here will be automatically entered when you create the person. So this is for IS, so what I can do is enter such things as location. So I'm going to put a plus for the location, and I'm going to put sub basement level F. Department is, in fact, IS. The telephone number is 1-800 help me. I know it's not the right number of digits. That's okay. This is not very important because we don't always work with this with users anyways, but just showing you, again, an example. The next thing is really important, and that has to do with their home directory. That is, again, underneath environment. The home directory, we want to point to the volume that you are going to be using for the home volume, and then it will automatically add the user's name afterwards. So when I use a template to create a user called Bob, it's going to append Bob to wherever you point this to. Since we have our own volume for it, I'm just going to click on the volume. I want to click on the object selector, go on up to Benfield, down underneath Benfield, and then clicking on home. And again, it's going to append the username behind this automatically. If you had it sub-levels multiple deep, if it was under the data directory, data volume, and had a users or a home folder underneath there, that's okay. You can have that. It'll just be appended one level deeper. So this is a really, really important step, is pointing to this. This will help create that directory. The next thing is, across the tabs on top, is a new object file system rights. That's saying that when you create a new object, it's going to automatically assign file system rights to a location. Okay? We're going to talk about file system rights next week, so we're not going to get into this right now. Just sort of go with the flow, and I'll tell you what to click, and then we'll tell you what that means next week. So it's going to create a home directory, And it's in parentheses because it's a variable. I don't know what home directory is going to be until the user is created. If I create Lisa, this will become the Lisa folder rights. To modify those rights, by default they're all off. To modify these rights, I want to click on the checkbox next to the volume icon, and then I'm going to edit it. I'm going to edit the home directory. And it brings up the list of possible rights. These are the ones that you should choose. And again, I'm not going to get into this right now. We'll talk about it next week. Is read, write, create, erase, modify, and file scan. Do not choose supervisor. Do not choose access control. And then we click OK. You'll know that's correct when these are highlighted or bolded, and you can see that those are the rights that you chose. So read, write, create, erase, modify, and file scan are the ones that are on there for the new volumes, for the new home directory. So again, the really, really, really important stuff is under General Environment, pointing to the home directory, and then going to the New Object File System rights to give it the proper rights. Optional now are other restrictions. You click on the Restrictions tab, and now you can give optional restrictions for all the people that you're going to be creating with the IS template. Start typing, clicking some of these on here. Force periodic change, say 180 days. It has to be 5 characters long, has to be unique, and I'll give you 6 grace logins. That sounds pretty good. Login restrictions, just to show how this works. This would not be typical. But just to show that it's applying to everybody, I'll put a maximum of 2 concurrent connections. And then time restrictions, I'm just going to click on some just to show, again, of how this actually gets applied to it. So once you got all that stuff taken care of, you got the home folder pointed to, you have the home folder file system rights checked appropriately, and whatever restrictions you want for the people you create with the template, you click OK. And now you have the template. To use the template now, I'm in IS, and let me glance at my org chart. I'm in IS, and I'm going to create a new user. So new, create user, and we'll start with Samantha, because Samantha is right up on top. Samantha B, Samantha Benfield, password of LTC, LTC, retype LTC, LTC. I still want to set the simple password. But now, we've always skipped over this before and went right to create the home directory and then enter the title, location, department. We don't have to do that. I click on copy from a template, and now I browse for that template. I find it. And now it fills all this stuff in automatically. And the other things I can't even see right now, like time restriction, login restriction, and password restrictions. That's not something you can do when you create the person normally, but everything's done for you. And now when I click OK, I don't have to go back in and modify that person to make all those other changes. What's really nice about this is that you can set up some security policies and say that, yes, I want everybody to have 180 days for IS, but for sales, I want them to change their passwords every 120 days. It's really hard to keep all that stuff, keep track of all that stuff. Who had what, where, and you don't create somebody for 3 months or a month. What were the things I was supposed to put on there? With templates, you don't have to worry about it. You create the user with the template, and it already has everything populated the corporate policy way. To double check on everything before we create multiple users, you should always check it after the first run through. You start to check Samantha, you click on Samantha here, and sure enough, that stuff seems to be filled in, so we're good so far. The next is the environment. Make sure that this is filled in properly. Yep, that looks pretty good. Then I can go over to restrictions and just start checking these fields. That's looking good. Login restrictions, yep, that's right, and then time restrictions. So everything looked like it did well so far. Now I want to switch over to Remote Manager because I want to take a look at my home volume. And if I manage servers, volumes, home, I can see that Samantha B is here. One other thing to check, and I haven't had you check this so far because we haven't gotten to file system rights. If you click on the info button to the left of Samantha, this trustee information is what we just did during the creation of that home directory. We gave Samantha those rights to this folder, and that's exactly what we want to do. If this was missing or if these were wrong, then you go back and change your template, then you go and create all your users. Since I know this is correct, I can go ahead and create my other IS people. I click on New, create a user, and I have Lauren. Set simple password, copy from a template. Since I already recently used a template, I can use this object history link instead. Find my template, click on it, fills in everything, and I click OK. And I can repeat the task for my last person, which is Brandon. Copy from a template, object history, my template, and I click OK. Glancing over at Remote Manager again, I can see that those folders have been created. I can see the users have been created. Go ahead and try that in HR as well. Go ahead and create a template for HR, create the users under HR, and again, double checking to make sure that they are actually getting created properly and having all the right restrictions. So our next topic is going to be intruder detection. Intruder detection. Intruder detection is what we set up when we try to limit invalid attempts on accounts. We're not sure if the person just doesn't know their user account or whether somebody's actually trying to break into their account. So either way, this is how you set it up. It's under iManager, and it's done at the container level or the organizational unit level. It's an iManager. It's not underneath the individual users. This is how we clear it. We'll come back later on and show you how to do that. It is underneath the container. One thing about intruder detection, it does not flow down. There's two things in eDirectory that do not flow down from one container to the next, the next, the next. Like when you think of file rights flowing down through everything, there's only two things in all of Novell that do not flow down. One of them is intruder detection. The other one is login scripts. Everything else flows from container to container to container. So we need to configure this in every container. And we're going to start in the HR container. There's two ways to do it. One is while you're in the HR container, you can click on the current level. I kind of prefer seeing what I'm clicking on instead of just saying current level. I bring it back a level and go to Garopa and then click on HR. Unfortunately, also, this is not one of the things that you can select multiple objects on and then edit all the intruder detection at once. This is a container by container configuration. So, unfortunately. Okay, to show how to do that, so I'm choosing HR and I'm going to edit it. And I'm going to stay in the General tab and move on over to the middle of it, and I get intruder detection. And there's two parts to intruder detection. One is I detect whether I think it's an intruder or not, and the second thing, what I'm going to do after I detect it. And they're separate for some reason. So I can detect an intruder and basically say, hey, there's an intruder, there's an intruder, there's an intruder, and still let you keep on trying and eventually gain access. Or I can lock your account after you've tried so often, and then you won't be able to get in at all. By default, incorrect login attempts is 7. Any thoughts on that? I think that's a few too many. I think that 7 is quite a few. I kind of like the 3 option. 3 strikes, you're out. That's what my ATM card gives me is 3 attempts. I think it does. Maybe it's 4. But I'll choose 3 attempts. It also has what's called here an intruder attempt reset. which means that after how long will it reset that counter down to 0. Now, these are consecutive incorrect logins. This is not, you had one bad login last week and one yesterday, and meanwhile you've been logging successfully, and then all of a sudden today you logged in wrong again, that it's going to like trigger this, like, oh, you had 3 incorrect logins sometime over the last 6 months. Well, that's silly. It doesn't do it that way. But if you don't do anything, so you can try it 2, 3 times, and it's actually not detected yet, and then you let it sit for 30 minutes, you get your 3 tries over again. The people don't know this, they don't know what the timing is, but if also they try it 3 or 4 times within that 30-minute time frame, all sequentially incorrect, it's going to trigger it as an invalid, as a possible intruder attempt. So we're going to say that we're going to detect it. At this point, all it does is there's a little system beep on your server, and on your screen, on your server screen, it says an intruder has been detected. That's it. And life goes on, and people can keep on trying, and it'll say, I think there's an intruder attempt at this access. Well, we need something with teeth in it, which is locking the account. You get your 3 tries, and then we're going to lock it. After it's locked, it has a 15-minute reset cycle, and then it becomes unlocked again. At least that's by default. Why might you have that? If a legitimate person? Okay. Why would it unlock, though, automatically? Eventually. I'm sorry? Yeah, somebody from IT would have to unlock it manually, and this does it automatically. There's debate on this. I don't necessarily like the 15 minutes. Doesn't seem very good, because if I was an intruder trying to hack it, all I do is wait 15 minutes, wait for it to come back up, and now I have 3 more tries. Yeah, I'm only given 3 tries every 15 minutes, but I can keep trying all night long or all weekend or whatever. And if I have some ideas about you, I might have some ideas of what your passwords might be. But there are times that there is no IS staff. There are organizations that there is nobody from IT, that, somebody came in, set up the system, they come once every couple of months whenever they need help. What are you going to do? Have the person's account locked until they make it back? Not very likely. So this could be for those places that if a person calls up and says, hey, my account is locked, what do? You just tell them, hey, wait 15 minutes and try it again. Are you sure you know a password? Yeah, I remembered what it was. Yes, they can log in. So it doesn't help the people that truly don't know their password, but it does give them a chance to log in. I've always worked with places that they've had the help desk and the support staff to be able to do this, and this is something that a help desk person can, clear the intruder detection as well. So I usually set this to a day, which essentially is forever. There is, no one's going to wait a day to try 3 more attempts to log on. And for the user, whether it's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or a day, it's not going to make a difference. They're going to be calling you, and somebody will be resetting this. So they call up, and they get reset then. These are completely arbitrary numbers. Think of what works in your organization and set it. When you set that, that is for the entire organization. So that's going to apply to Alexis, Anthony, and Emma. And unfortunately, you can't do it like, well, I want that applied to everybody but Anthony. Anthony, he's a little slow. We'll give him 10 times. Well, I don't know. That was bad. Sorry. Delete. You can't do that. Or I don't want it to apply to Emma, So you can't do that. It's for the whole container. Like I said, if there's subcontainers, like we have under sales, east and west, it doesn't flow down. You actually have to set this up for the sales container and the east container and the west container and ops and first and second and third. At this point, admin account is not covered because the container level is the organization itself. You can set it for the organization level. Just realize, though, that right now your admin account is vulnerable. If somebody knows that this is set for admin, they can just lock your account on purpose just to mess with you, making things difficult. oh, I may not be able to break in, but at least I can let them not do anything. So you log in 3 times, it locks the account, and now no one can do anything. Before you do something like that, you should always have a backup administrative account so that you can get in some other way. When we talk about object rights, which is different than file system rights, we'll see of how we can create a backup admin and give them all the right rights to be able to do that. We're not going to do that right now, so we're not going to put an intruder detection for their admin account. Once it's set up, so I set it up for HR, it's going to apply to Alexis, Anthony, and Emma. To sort of put this into play, let me try this. So I'm going to log in as Emma. Emma B. And the most important thing when you're testing this is making sure you're pointing to the correct context. So the context that I need to point to is human resources. Otherwise, if you try to log in as Emma from IS, it's going to say that, oh, something's wrong with your credentials, try again. And you could be trying 20, 30 times. It's like, boy, intruder detection isn't working. You're not logging in as anybody. So you have to log in at a valid location with a valid user. So I'm going to type in LTC, and I don't know, my keyboard must have got stuck or something, and I try it. I think it is. It's going to say, oh, that's okay, close enough. You have, we work with a 95% accuracy rate, so as long as you got most of the letters. And it said, make sure your name and connection information are correct, and that's this. Make sure that you are Emma and in this context, and then type your password again. So, okay, so I think it's just that. And I click OK again. No, let me try this one. And Emma's just really looking and working at this, trying to figure out what it is. Try it one more time. And if I look at my server, I should have gotten right here an intruder detection locked user account, Emma B. So now the account is locked. Emma doesn't know that yet, though, until she tries it one more time. And then it says login denied. Someone has attempted to access your account by guessing password values. Account disabled to deny possible intruder attack. See your system administrator. And that's all they get. So they don't know the timings. They don't know when that gets reset or anything. So well, they'd have to call in and be told that. You as an administrator then, you can do it a couple different ways. I can click on Emma and go to Actions, and the top one is Clear Lockout. I still kind of prefer just going through menus and clicking on the user, going to, restrictions, and then wait. This way I need to maximize this. Intruder lockout's way over there. This tells me a lot of information. Instead of just clearing it, it tells me where the intruder access came from. So if Emma says, I have no idea what you're talking about, this is the first time I logged in, and I really know my password, and yet this is her IP address, it's probably a good idea that she just doesn't know her password. If, however, this is from Tom in accounting, trying to log in as Emma, be probably trying to figure out what's going on and why that's happening. So it gives you the IP address. It does say that there have been 3 login attempts, intruder attempts. This does count up, so I would have been able to go in here and watch this go up from 1, 2, 3 to see the different attempts. To see what's going on. It's a simple uncheck the checkbox. It's a one-way click. Once I uncheck this, actually I uncheck it and then apply it, I can't click it again. I can't lock somebody's account by intruder. That'd just be silly. But it does keep my information about where this last was, so I don't lose that information. Now I'm Emma. Where am I? Here we go. Now I'm Emma. Yes, I know my password, LTC. And I'm logged in successfully. And it does tell me that I have 5 grace logins left to change my password. Do you want to change your password? No, I don't. And now I'm logged in. So go ahead and set intruder detection for the Human Resources Department and for Information Systems. Log in, lock somebody's account, and then go back out and reset their account, and then log in successfully as them. Okay, just a quick review. The things that we did do today is just a quick review of creating organizations and organizational units. And then we created some users, just standard users again, manually. We were able to modify users and modify multiple users. We then were moving people, and we renamed people, remembering that we have to rename the directory, the home directory as well, and then changing its path. Deleting people and deleting their home directories as well. We were just working with templates, and that makes the creation of users a little bit easier and more thorough and more secure overall. And then we worked with intruder detection today. And those are things we covered. Over the next couple of weeks, just taking a look at the calendar. Oh, where's my calendar? Here we go. We have class the next 2 weeks. Next week, I'm planning on working with the file system to get you into the file system and starting working with rights, giving roles, groups, users, organizational units, all that kind of stuff, rights to different areas, and seeing how that works. Then we'll probably spend a couple weeks on that because there's some advanced things that we want to do as far as how we control the flow of that and just scenarios. That's probably the most important aspect as far as how the course goes. So how we manage file security. That's something that you're going to be doing a lot of on any network operating system. So it's good to understand the concepts of it and how it specifically applies to Novell. We then have a break. October 25th is a break. And that brings us into November. November 1st and 8th, we are going to finish up with login scripts, working with that, and printing, and possibly a couple other features like object rights. I'd like to get that far, and we'll start introducing those things November 1st and 8th. Those 2 weeks also, the 2 weeks after break, so fall break is, October, again, 25th. The 1st and 8th is when I'll be handing out and going over those skill sheets with you and telling you exactly what it's going to be. Like example for today, it's going to be create a user without a template, create a user with a template, move a user, delete a user, rename a user, edit multiple users, establish intruder detection, clear intruder detection. It's just things that you're going to be showing and demonstrating. I'm doing it those 2 weeks because starting the 15th, you'll be doing that. I'm giving you 4 weeks for you to do self-review and self-opportunities for testing and demonstrating those skills. That gives us the 15th, the 22nd we're off for Thanksgiving, and then the 29th, and then in December it goes the 6th and the 13th. So that's 4 weeks. How it's going to work is I'm going to give you, the skill sheets and a specific skill chunk, like working with just users, kind of like all the stuff we've been doing together. And you have to complete all the steps. If you don't complete those, you get sort of stuck. It's just like, oh, I forgot how to edit multiple users. That's okay. You don't get chucked off on that one. You just get to practice it again, review it again, take notes or whatever you want to do, and then come back and get to do it again. Jacob. Absolutely. It's open notes. You can use multiple resources. You just can't use each other. So you can't say, hey, how do I do this again? You can use others to help you get ready to practice to demonstrate your skill, not to do your skill. This is an individual thing. Just do those skills. You can practice them. You can do them as many times as you want. Now, along those lines, I'm still debating of how to do this. One option, one idea that just sort of came up in a team meeting yesterday, and not related to any of this, but just sort of brought to mind of possibly having you record your skills while you do it, and then you can turn it in and I can grade it, just like what I'm doing right now. when I record my screen, I'm able to, save it as a file, upload it, whatever like that, and then you can see it. I give you the skill sheet, you do it. There's a free program. I haven't tried it yet, but it creates AVI files. You could post it, to Angel as a Dropbox thing, or email it to me or something. Just thinking of possibilities. That way you have a lot of flexibility of how and when you're going to do it. You submit it, and then I can annotate it right there or check on it. It's just like, you know what, you're missing this step, or you're missing this chunk, or yeah, you completed everything. Let me sign off as that is a whole skill set. There's pros and cons to that. That involves technology and extra training, so I'm not sure how that's going to work. The other option is just for me to sit and watch you, but I really want to watch you do the skill, not just saying, oh yeah, look at, I created all these people. Well, how did you do that? I want to see the process. Yes, ultimately looking at the end result, like I don't care really how you do it. I guess I just want to make sure that you're doing it. As opposed to, I don't know, don't even want to go there. I want to see you do the skills. Can you create a folder? Can you create a person? Can you change a password? I want to see those things. I won't be able to do that with 40 people. All those skills, all individually. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Another option is I have the capability of seeing all your screens on my screen. They tend to be really small though, and I tend to only be able to focus on one or two things. I'm a very focused person. Either that or easily distracted. So again, will I be able to watch the skills? Do you have any thoughts or comments on that? Of just what might work? I knew I'd run into this at the end of the semester. Like, here's my idea of how to do this class. Not sure how to grade it. Oh, right. But how am I going to pass you? Like, how am I give you holiday? Thoughts on that? Concerns about any of the things I mentioned? The what? The screen capturing, recording it? So you wouldn't mind doing something like that? And that you would not be opposed to that? Yeah, it's a free one. I haven't seen how it works yet. I just sort of came across it. Unrelated activities. We could upgrade to Windows 8 real quick in the classroom. Wouldn't that be fun? Still can't download the keys. Okay. Well, think about it. Give me feedback. I'm looking for honest opinion. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Just like, oh, I think it's a bad idea, or I think this is a good idea. Just I'm looking for feedback to see what's going to work for you, and to be able to get you through all the stuff as quickly and as easily as possible. Most likely not. The question was, am I going to have one option and is everybody stuck with that? Most likely not. There's just some people that they're just going to want to show me, and in some cases, I'm just going to want to watch very specifically. Other people, they want to do the screen capture thing and email it to me, or give it to me in a flash drive or a Dropbox thing. I'd be very comfortable with that as well. So I think I have a couple options. And, there isn't just one way. So don't feel that, no, I don't want that, or I'll have multiple options. I think I'm going to want to watch all the skills somehow. Either watch you, or else video capture watch you. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. You could do that, too. You could do that as well. Well, we'll look at that the next couple of weeks. Maybe I'll even try to get the software and see what we can do as far as practice with it, play with it, see what you like about it, maybe even get comfortable with it. There are definitely advantages to that, but I don't want to have that get in the way. Anything else? So that's all that I have. Questions or comments? Chris, you have something? The rest of the day is for you to practice. Practice, I would encourage you to, as an excellent practice activity for all the stuff that we did was finish Garopa. Go through every organization, create the rest of the organizational structure using organizational units. Then, within every department, I'd create a template. Use that, create the template properly, and then use that template to create all those people in there. Now, like even for sales, I think you could get by with a sales template and use it for the sales people and the East people and the West people. You don't have to create multiple ones for there. You can have it for all the sales. I'd create one for operations and have everything underneath there as well. Just have different templates for different departments. I'd also create, you know what, we're missing two things. I did the wrong order, so we have to come back to this. We didn't do groups and roles yet, so we have to do those. Those are pretty simple though. But then go through and create all the intruder detection for each of the containers, and you know, making sure that everything's in place for there. The last thing is, in fact, implementing roles and groups, and I should probably show that to you. Okay. Okay, roles and groups. Roles and groups, looking at our organizational structure. Let's close that. Under Garopa, HR and IS. I have Alexis as the HR manager. There are times that I might be wanting to give the HR manager extra rights or extra permissions someplace because she's the manager, not because she's Alexis. You know, Alexis doesn't get something special. The HR manager gets something special. To create roles, it's actually pretty simple. When you're working within the container that you want to put the role, you create a new create object. And you create a template. No, that's not it. Organizational role. Sorry. My mind is still on templates. I love templates. Organizational role is what we're working on right now. So I click OK on creating an organizational role. And I'm going to call it HR Manager. And so now he's a little person behind a desk, like, isn't that cute? There's the HR Manager. It's a role, though, and if you think of roles within a company, there's the purchasing agent and there's the vice president of sales or whatever. Those are all roles that the company has. And then you hire somebody to occupy that role. So we already have Alexis created. We just need her to occupy the role of HR manager. To have people occupy roles, we click on the HR manager, and with the different options underneath here, and one of them is a role occupant. So right underneath general, we have a role occupant. Now I want to choose somebody, so I use the object selector, and I look around for Alexis. Since it's in the same container where I was, it should be pretty simple to find them. If not, you just navigate it up and down until you find Alexis. I'm going to click on Alexis. What that does, it puts people down the bottom. So this is who I can choose, and this is who is chosen. If I want to choose Emma as well, I click on Emma, and now Emma's going to show up down there. And you can have multiple people occupy a role. They might split the responsibilities, or you might have a co-manager or whatever. So you can have multiple objects. If you decide, you know what, I really don't need that person down the bottom, I'm going to click on the bottom person again, and then they go away. And they go away. So I click the top to select them, the bottom to make them go away. Okay, put Alexis back in there, and I click OK. And now Alexis, as soon as I click OK down here, Alexis is now an occupant of that role. Next week, when we start assigning rights to that role, Alexis gains those rights. It's an additive type situation. So Alexis is going to have her own sets of rights. And now, because she's an occupant of this role, she's going to get other rights. And we add those all together, and those become your effective rights. Now let's say that Alexis is gone, she's on some kind of tour or trip or a long vacation, and we need someone to fill in temporarily. I can go to the role occupants, and I can add somebody else to this role. We'll keep Alexis there because Alexis is coming back. So I go to the object selector, and Anthony is going to fill in for her. So I select an Anthony, and he shows up in the bottom, and I click OK. And now we have both people there. And I click OK, and instantly Anthony's just working along, and all of a sudden, poof, I get all these extra rights and permissions because Anthony now is a member, not a member, an occupant of that role. Alexis comes back. We want to get rid of Anthony. This is not intuitive at all. Really, really weird. I want to get rid of Anthony. There's no buttons to click. The way you get rid of them is hit the delete key. So I have to hit the delete key, and now he is gone. You could have removed Alexis before, removed Alexis and added Anthony. You could certainly do that and then add them back and forth. If you know the person's coming back, just leave them in that role and add the substitute person just for that time being. So for your practice, go ahead and create roles for all the managers, and just to practice with that. So for the manager level of GROPA, and even for the president, make the president role as well, and then put the proper people in there. Very, very, very similar to roles or groups. Groups are not used the same way as they are in Windows Server. Windows Server uses groups for everything. So I would have an HR group so that I could work with these people in HR to give them rights to something. Well, I don't need to do that in Novell. In Novell, I can use the HR container to give all those people rights, and that will make more sense as we work with the rights next week. We only use groups in Novell if we're working with cross-divisional activities, something that would apply to something that people are already in different containers or different departments, and we need to group them together for some reason. We might have a special events group or a quality assurance. Quality assurance is a good one. So we'll make a quality assurance group. Kind of the question is, where do we put groups, though? One option is to make a new container called groups. And we're going to make it that way just for now. I can create a new group, and we'll call it groups. Other thoughts are of creating a group underneath what's sort of most likely to have it pertain to, like quality might be under operations or something like that. Or let's make a new one. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Wrong. Delete that. I want to create a new organizational unit called groups. And then underneath there, create a new group. There we go. Much better. And I call it, what do I call it? I can do like quality. Since I only have HR and IS right now, there might be a special group working with researching a new human resources information systems package. So an HRIS product research group. So this is going to involve people that are going to research a new product. And so we're going to get more into scenarios of where we could use with groups. How we add people to groups is very, very similar to roles. The difference is that roles have occupants and groups have members. And this is our members tab up on top. How I add and remove people is identical though. So if I want to add people to this human resource information systems research group, I browse for the objects I want. I'll choose Anthony from human resources. And meanwhile, I can keep Anthony down here, and I can navigate separately up on top, and Samantha. So I'm going to take Samantha from IS and Anthony from Human Resources, have them work together on this project, click OK, and now both of them are members of this group. Later on, when I give that group access to a folder, they'll be able to access it if they're members of that group. If I want to change the membership, I go up to Members. I can add additional people. Maybe Lauren should be involved, so I add Lauren. And maybe over time, I want to get rid of Samantha out of the group. I select her and hit Delete. So people can come and go very, very easily out of groups. Again, we only use groups, though, for cross-divisional activities or cross-department things. If it's within a group, within a department, like accounts payable, account receivable, or something like that, don't group things that way. If you really need to organize them, use an organizational unit. As we work with rights and security again, you're going to say, oh yeah, that's going to make a whole lot more sense instead of having to double enter everything and have a lot of extra work. So now we're done with all that stuff. Sorry about that. I almost forgot roles and groups. Questions or comments on anything we covered today? Todd? Roles, organizational roles have occupants and groups have members. So I'm a member of this group, or I occupy that role. It's just terminology. They're going to function almost identically even when we give them rights. We give rights to the role, we give rights to the group, and then just the people that are in it. As you notice, we can put multiple people in as an occupant for a role. Is this more of a terminology type thing? You think of a position like Vice President of Sales as a role. That's a role in the company. A group is just in massing of people, just bringing them together for a project, for a team. It's usually you don't have a Vice President of Sales group. That just doesn't even seem right at all. Or you don't have a quality assurance role. It's usually a team of people that are working with quality assurance. So it's more of semantics than anything else. There are some technical differences. The stuff that we're working with, we really don't even see those. They come in with login scripts later on, but it's really not going to apply to a lot of things that we're working on. So they could be used nearly interchangeably. Excellent question. Chris?
So was groups created as an OU?
Yes. I did that very quickly. I apologize. Just a way of organizing this, like where do I put these things? And we can have lots of discussions about where to put groups, and we can even move them. We can move a group. Maybe putting quality underneath operations and HRIS under IS. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of where all the groups are, like what groups do I have and who belongs where. So this is a common way of doing it, or a semi-common, I should say, a semi-common way of organizing all your groups in its own container. Because we have so few of them in a Novell infrastructure, we really have very, very few groups that we work with. If you're working with Windows Server, you're used to tons of them. There's groups for everything. And it's just sort of a different philosophy or implementation. So since we have so few of them, it's kind of nice just to keep them together. And then I can see them, look at the memberships, see what applies to where very quickly and easily. Other questions? Todd? The actual groups. These are pictures of actual groups. So I'm just using the group's organizational unit. It's not a department. You know, normally we have these like HR, IS, accounting, operations, executive. Groups is under GROPA. Yeah, all of this stuff is under GROPA. No, for groups I did new. I did it wrong. That was a complete. I was trying to talk and do it at the same time. I mistakenly created the group as a group, which is silly. I created a new object organizational unit, and I called it groups.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You click on groups
to
get in, then you go to
new group.
Create group. That's
right. Yep. That's exactly correct. And you know it's a group because it has two people. As opposed to a role is going to have one person behind a desk. Kind of paying attention to the icons. A template icon is a little piece of paper with like a shadow. That's a template, like a document template. Say again. Keep practicing. Like I said, go through the GROPA organizational structure. If you want, this is all just practice. Practice just makes it easier for you. ask any questions as you get along the way, like if you get stuck on templates or roles or groups. I went through a lot of things very, very quickly. I'm going to try to post the stuff out on YouTube as well so that you can, review it, slow it down, pause it, take notes, practice, practice, practice. But just trying to get through a lot of information very, very quickly. Sure. Okay, have a good day.